Welcome to the Walton Pi. Today we're going to go through finding the derivative of a fairly complicated function, just so that we have practice using the chain rule, the product rule, the quotient rule, the power rule, the exponential rule, all of the different rules together in one problem. This is probably more complicated than you would see on a test, but if you can do this one, you can do pretty much anything. So let's say that we have the function f of x is equal to e to the 4x squared minus 3x minus sine of 4 plus pi x plus 4 tangent of x divided by x cubed minus e to the 4x plus e to the 3x x to the e plus 3. Okay, if we have this, let's go through and figure out how can we find this derivative. Okay, there we go. F prime of x. What is this going to be? Well, let's go piece by piece and figure out each one on its own. So let's start with this piece, because that's the first chunk before we have something joined together by an addition or a subtraction. So if we were to look at the e to the stuff, what's the derivative of that? Well, the chain rule says we have some inside function and some outside function. So here our inside function is that 4x squared minus 3x. So the chain rule says it'll be the derivative of the outsidemost thing. So the derivative of e to the x. Well, that's just going to be e to the x. So it's e to everything that was inside already, multiplied by the derivative of that inside function. So the derivative of 4x squared minus 3x, that is 8x minus 3. That is the derivative of that first piece. Okay, now let's look at the minus sign of stuff. So we have minus, and then what's the derivative of sine of x? Well, derivative of sine is cosine, so we'll have cosine of inside. But then we have to that's just a pi. So that's what that piece is going to be. Okay. Now we're going to add the derivative of this. This one's going to be a bit trickier because this one is not just the chain rule. This one's going to be using the quotient rule. So what's the quotient rule say? Well, if it's f of x divided by g of x, the derivative is going to be low d high, so g of x times derivative of the top minus high d low all over the bottom function squared. So we're going to just follow that rule on this. So low d high, bottom is x cubed minus e to the 4x times the derivative of the top. Well, what's the derivative of tangent? If you don't know that one, we can use the quotient rule to find it, but that is a common one, so it would probably be worth memorizing. So the derivative of tangent is secant squared, so we get a 4 secant squared x, so that's low d high minus high times derivative of the bottom. Derivative of x cubed, that's a 3 squared. Derivative of the 4x, that's a 4 e to the 4x. Here, let's just slide this over. Let's make sure I don't try and cram things too small to be able to read. So that's a 4 e to the 4x. So that's low d high minus high d low all over the bottom squared. Okay, so that's all of that piece. So now what we have left is we're still going to need to figure out this last one, the plus e to the 3x x e to the x to the e plus 3. Well, this one's going to be a product rule, and so what we'll have is this is going to be plus first times the derivative of the second, so an e to the 3x times derivative of x to the e plus 3. Well, the rule for exponents on x's is you bring down the power of x and then it's x to that power minus 1. So, because it's x to the e plus 3, that is now x to the e plus 2, and we add to that the derivative of the first times the second. Well, e to the 3x, you can either recognize that immediately as 3e to the 3x, or you can do it as a chain rule sort of thing, where it's e to the 3x, and then we multiply by the derivative of 3x, which is where we get the 3e to the 3x times the second function, x 3. So all of this together, that whole big thing, all of that is the derivative of this function. I hope this video was helpful in understanding it and recognizing that a lot of these big problems can be broken down into smaller pieces, each of which are fairly straightforward to do, and it's just a matter of combining them all by addition. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Have a great day, and good luck with the rest of your math.